So Professor Casagranda, anytime you'd like to start?
Okay, yeah. I'll start right away. So I'm very happy to welcome you all to this event, which has been organized and funded, supported by the Department of Humanities of the University of Calabria, but also supported by Accenti magazine and ELAN, English Language Arts Network, our community supporter, which has kindly provided the virtual space we are using today. And I would like to thank them all. And also Nick Maturo, who is taking care of the technical side of the event, and in particular, the Department of Humanities, not only for the opportunity our students have to work on different skills and competences, but also for believing in the importance of creative writing for our students, for our curricula, and probably, as you already know, creative writing is not usually taught in Italy. So for us at the University of Calabria, the Department of Humanities, it was very important to organize this 20-hour workshop, which actually, this is the third edition of the workshop of creative writing. I'm the coordinator, and where we've had Licha Canton as workshop leader this year as well. And of course, I guess that we all know her. Maybe this is, but I believe that I need to, well, first of all, to thank her for everything that she's done also this year. And for those, and I'm pretty sure that there is nobody, but for those who don't know her, Licha Canton is a writer, translator from Montreal. She has written and published 2 collections of short stories, Almond, Wine and Fertility in 2008, and The Pink House and Other Stories in 2018. She has edited several books on culture, Italian-Canadian culture, Italian-Canadian identity, but also on queer Italian-Canadian identities and writing. In particular, she edited Here and Now, an anthology of queer Italian-Canadian writing, which was published last year in 2021. She is also the president of the Association of Italian-Canadian Writers. She was the president from 2010 to 2014, and she is also now, she's been the president since last year. She's also the editor of Accenti magazine. Thank you again, Licha, for everything. And so I was saying that this is the 3rd edition of the workshop, and this year's theme has been writing in transitional times. Last year, it was about writing in a safe space. We were still in the middle of the pandemic. We needed a safe space to write in and to write from, but also, a safe space to merely to survive. And now we are moving towards a new normal. So we are transitioning to a new normal or new normal times. And that's why we thought that it was a good theme for the workshop this year, and also a good theme for our students to explore their idea of, transitioning, of transitional times, of becoming something else or changing, moving forward. In this workshop, our students had the opportunity to work on creative writing, in particular on finding the story, writing the stories from first draft to final version, and rewriting the story, the editing process, and as we are going to see also how to perform in front of an audience. So today we are going to listen, and I'm thrilled about this, of course. We are going to listen to their stories and their projects. And I just would like to mention all of them before starting. So we're having Caterina AMORUSO, Juana COLUCCIO, Chiara Maria FRANDINA, Federica FURCHI, Rita IAZZOLINO, Simone LIBRANDI, Mariele LO BIANCO, Giada OPPEDISANO, Mariastella SABATINO, Alessia SCHIPANO, Daniela TRIFILIO, and Elena ZANFINI. So we're going to listen to their stories and their projects, but before that, I would like to give the floor to Anna Francesca Naccarato, Professor Naccarato, who is the coordinator of our BA and MA programs in modern languages at the Department of Humanities, University of Calabria. So Anna Francesca, I don't know, I can't see you, but the floor is yours for, yeah.
Ok, grazie Mirko. Allora vi rubo soltanto un minuto perché tengo a ringraziare prima di tutto Mirko per aver organizzato per la terza volta questo workshop, ma anche e soprattutto Licia, perché è riuscita anche quest'anno a coinvolgere i nostri studenti e diciamo le loro reazioni a questo lavoro sono state particolarmente arricchenti anche per noi, perché hanno riportato questa esperienza a tutti noi. Quindi grazie Licia, grazie agli studenti che hanno partecipato e grazie anche al Dipartimento di Studi Umanistici che per la terza volta ci ha dato questa opportunità e spero ci siano ancora altre occasioni. In particolare quest'anno il tema che è stato scelto, la transizione, è di grandissima attualità e l'aspetto forse che mi è piaciuto di più è che questo tema può essere veramente declinato da punti di vista diversi, quindi credo che sia un approccio che permetta un approccio di natura interdisciplinare che ha un po' coinvolto le diverse anime del corso di laurea e direi del Dipartimento. Grazie a tutti e buon lavoro.
Thank you, Anna Francesca. Licia, so I guess that the floor now is yours. Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you so much, Professoressa Naccarato. And we understand that you have to leave. Allora, buonasera a tutti, benvenuti. Depending on where you are in Canada, good morning, good afternoon. Thank you everyone for being here. And we're excited, really excited. I'm also very, very proud. We're excited to listen to our 12 emerging writers. But first, let me begin by acknowledging that I'm located on unceded Indigenous lands. Jojage, Montreal, is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations. We acknowledge them and other nations who care for the land across our country, and we pay our respects to Canada's first storytellers. And before I call each of the 12 emerging writers to the microphone, I just want to say what a pleasure and what a privilege it has been for me to spend the last 7 weeks with you and getting to know you, dear students, seeing you grow as creative people, seeing you become writers, no matter the genre, has been really enriching for me as well. And yes, some of us are very nervous today, but you've come this far. And I'd like you to think back to how nervous and anxious we all were the first time we met when we didn't know one another. And the other thing I want to say is thank you for your warm welcome for the first time since 2019. This year, I also had the great pleasure of meeting you in person. So that was really something very special. Your texts, the texts that you will be listening to are all very different. They're all very strong. Some people had already done some creative writing or some performing before, but we have all gone in some way, in one way or another, beyond our comfort zone. That's one thing that we worked on as well. And thank you, Professor Casagranda. Thank you, the university and the department, and all of the people here today who came to support these writers. And a special thanks to Nick Maturo and Elan for being community supporter. All right. Professor Casagranda, did you want to add something before we call the students to the microphone?
No, just one thing, something that you said that actually made me think about this. I mean, you were right. I mean, you are right. These are 12 emerging writers. They are also our students from, you know, the University of Calabria point of view, but organizing this workshop actually is also about going beyond, right? Their studies and their, as I was saying before, curricula as students. So here we are also, introducing you 12 emerging writers, which is of course a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. And so this year we've decided students will come to the microphone. I will be calling them in alphabetical order. And some students have weak connections. So if it were to happen that we lose them either while they're reading or when they're about to start reading, we will just move on to the next student. And, you know, when the person comes back, we'll just pick it up where we left off. All right. So yes, well, I'm looking at the poster, very beautiful poster that the graphic designer at Unical created. The first person that I'd like to call to the microphone is Caterina AMORUSO. Caterina, welcome. We're looking forward to listening to you.
Good evening to everyone, and thank you. It's a great pleasure to be part of this workshop. The title of my writing is Diving into the New. It was the 30th of May, the last day of school. The class had organized to finish off the year by going to the beach. This was a typical tradition in southern Italian schools, which are located near the sea. The first summer dive gives way to the end of the school year and to the beginning of a new summer season. In the early morning school day, everyone had arrived with their new bathing suits under their normal school clothes. The girls were already slightly lifting their t-shirts to give everyone a peek of their printed bathing suits. The boys instead were already speaking out loud and boasting on how good they were at swimming and playing ball in the water. I was there sitting offside in the classroom thinking how I could possibly undress in front of my classmates, show my bathing suit and dive into the water without being totally embarrassed. My mother knew nothing of how my last school day was going to finish before catching the bus at 2:30 to be back up for lunch in the small town of Staletti, where we were now living. My upbringing as an Italian-Canadian girl was focused on me being well-mannered, a good scholar, and most of all, it was forbidden for me to talk or make friends with the opposite sex. It was one of the main rules that had to be carried out and respected in our family in order to identify our moral dignity. My sisters and I knew exactly that we were all to be married off before the age of 24. It was a goal set by my mother. We had to find un buon partito, a good and wealthy husband that would maintain us and guarantee us a good life. Therefore, we were to be married off to live happily ever after. At the sight of the beach, my friends all ran towards it, screaming and laughing, enjoying the moment of happiness and liberation. School was finally over. I walked towards the point where everyone had gathered and sat on the sand. It was warm and soft, rippling through my fingers and falling into its place. Marianne called from afar, waving her arms and inviting me to jump into the water. Dai, buttati, jump in, the water is beautiful. I slowly began to undress as flashing notions went through my head, knowing my mother's reaction and what would possibly happen if news reached home on how I had spent the last day of school. I carefully walked into the water, realizing it was the first time that I was plunging into this beautiful, immense body of seawater named Mediterranean. It totally covered my white body as it stayed afloat. Its clear blue color caressed my skin, and the first sensation of being enveloped in a smooth and flowing motion lulled me to feel free. I was timidly free, washing away all my fears and restraints in this cuddling moment of sweetness that I had never experienced in my mother's arms. She was far from being understanding and constantly inclined to never show her inner feelings or emotions. As we dried, craving to stay longer in the sun, we finished playing and knew it was time to go. We got dressed and headed back home, knowing that the long-awaited day was coming to its end. We said goodbye, each wishing a fun and happy summer vacation. I knew exactly what would have been awaiting for me in the following few days and for the rest of the summertime. In this pleasant day, and for a brief moment, I was unbound and exempted of any rule in that moment of shared contentment. It was me and who I really wanted to be, a free person that could be and think on her own, interacting with common friends, whether boys or girls, exchanging ideas, laughter, and passions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Caterina.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a very beautiful text, and you delivered it really, really well. So now you can relax.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciated the way, I mean, we were talking about, you know, transitioning, moving forward. And it was like looking back at a girl who is actually right there, that moment, going somewhere, moving forward, plunging into, well, her future. So possibly also adulthood. So I really appreciated that. Thank you very much, Caterina. And it was very delicate, I think. So yeah.
It was a message that I wanted to convey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caterina. Thank you, Professor Casagranda. And now coming to the microphone is Juana COLUCCIO. Juana?
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you.
Okay. Dear Virginia. Dear Virginia, here I am once again, trying to relax after a 3-hour journey by bus. I am aware that engaging in a deep, one-sided conversation is unfair, but my actual room provokes me. Every time I come back home, there's a green wall which longs for me to give some explanation. Where have you been? What have you done? How did you feel? One question at a time, please, or I'll end up answering through other questions. Perhaps it is not a wall that speaks to me, but it's green. I chose this color for my room the same way someone chooses to lie to someone that they love, without thinking too much, because in love, forgiveness is taken for granted. My mother has forgiven the universe. My mother has some green in her brown eyes. The campus in May, after 3 years, is still the same explosion of colors and voices. Gardeners wake you up at 7 a.m. with the noise of their mowers. Kittens gain weight fast under the ivy's shade. Broom plants conquer public soil. Also, students running for the university's elections have occupied public spaces with their tiny tables wrapped in polyester fabric pride. But I guess that, although their democratic enterprise won't subvert corrupted structures as they promised to, for each of them the bridge is the starway to something. And I'm buying my starway too. like the lady of the song, whose name was Clarissa. She used to think positive, and her harmless pleasure was just to buy the flowers herself. There's a harmless pleasure in plunging your aching feet into a stream on July 11th. On July 11th, 2021 at 7 p.m., I was putting on my prettiest summer dress for the England versus Italy European Championship final. I can still remember the feeling of the heavy fabric on my sunburnt shoulders during that delayed Calabrian sunset. International students could not feel the electric atmosphere of that night. Italian students, on the other hand, made deals with Taiki. Some promised to dye their hair, some to cut off their semestral beard, others declared they will never smoke a cigarette again. The choice of the big screen was a tough compromise between the number of supporters that could animate the night and the amount that could destroy it. Beers and pizzas had wings. Bodies stood still. The two lions on my beer's cap had changed their gaze direction. On that large balcony at 5 to midnight, 30 wild Italians felt free to embrace one another at last. Escaping that delirium was the ultimate struggle. Thus, we decided we would cross the stream barefoot. Holding the cup of victory between my fingers, I could feel the pressure of those devastating years sink among the slippery rocks, while the wild orchids unfolded their path beyond the shore. It was the happiest. Stop making justice at any cost. Dear Virginia, I now know that thoughts on peace don't save you from a human raid, and that people need to yell all their hate at you to affirm their own worthiness. Process of othering, they call it in the healthy side of the bridge. Perhaps calling things by their names isn't enough. Playing academics isn't enough if homophobia and anti-feminism grow faster than the coral roses under the Crystal Palace. A smell of homemade cookies reassures me. A woman comes in. There's some green in my mother's brown eyes. Warmest regards, Serenella. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. That was really beautiful. Very well done. You took us into the private space, into the public space. Really nicely done. Thank you very much for sharing.
Especially, yeah, I agree. I mean, the public and the private, and the bridge connecting those spaces. And for us, of course, from the University of Calabria, for those who haven't been there, I mean, the campus is like a very long bridge, well, connecting buildings. And also the intertextual references to, well, Mrs. Dalloway and Virginia Woolf. And yeah, that was very, very nice. And I also like the way you managed to combine, you know, elements that are, let's say, not only public and private space, but also private and public feelings and emotions and issues and topics like homophobia and feminism, but also the symbolism with the wall and the green eyes, and that was very well done. Thank you.
Thank you for your words, Professor Casagranda, and thank you all for listening.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, up next, I'd like to call to the microphone Chiara Maria FRANDINA. Chiara Maria.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Misunderstandings. Let's start with the definition of misunderstandings. A situation in which a comment, an instruction, etc., is not understood correctly. Thank you, www.oxfordlearnersdictionary.com. In high school, my English teacher was so enthusiastic about explaining the meaning of this incredible word and how it was formed. At the time, I couldn't agree with her because of the student honor code, but now I must confess that there's something genius in misunderstanding. For example, the word is composed of miss and understanding. What is missing? The understanding. So brilliant. I found out that misunderstanding is with one S, not two. What a naive English student I am. However, I was talking about understanding getting lost, such as bus when I'm in a hurry, probably abducted by aliens. At my ripe old age, I'm 20, I realized that we have different approaches to misunderstandings. For example, we can truly not understand people when they're talking. Imagine you're talking to an handsome person but so self-referential, like me, or they are way too talkative. In these cases, the just smile and nod tactic is recommended, but pay attention because you can find yourself at their grandparents' 60th marriage anniversary or at their cousin wedding. Another example could be my last experience with sheets, with Chewy, and sofa bed in Bologna. Last month, I stayed 4 days at my best friend's home in Bologna. She asked me to bring my own sheets, but she didn't specify which kind of sheets I needed. While she was making my bed, I realized that I brought single sheets instead of double sheets. I was doing a video reportage of that moment, and I was able to capture her facial expression. She was shocked, and she is still today. Here we are, misunderstanding, with one S. What a bizarre language is the English language. If my high school teacher heard me, a very tricky aspect of the English language is pronunciation. There are many pair of homophone words, like tree, beneath which Newton was taking a nap before discovering of gravity, and three, the number of driving tests I've done. I'm definitely not a good driver. Or soap, used with water for washing, and soup, what my granny cooks in August with 40 degrees. My English teacher used to tell us the story of when she was almost thrown out during an exchange student experience in London, because she said that was a very nice soap instead of it was a very nice soup. When I was in Dublin in 2019 during a study travel, I asked my English course teacher how to pronounce specific pairs of homophone, such as beach, made of sand, and, well, the word that rhymes with beach. Sheet, the pair I left in Bologna, and, well, guys, you have understood me. She recommended me to tense each word and to be a good girl, but that I can't assure. Despite my bad pronunciation and my learning issues, it isn't just language being misunderstood, but also life, jokes, people, love, sermon during the mess. I often do it intentionally. Poor Father Tommaso. Anyways, I live on misunderstandings, and sometimes I take advantage of them. They come to me. Part of my sarcasm and humor is based on them and their conscious manipulation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chiara Maria. Thank you very much. It's just as funny hearing it the second time, and it's very refreshing. Thank you very much for sharing your text with us. Great delivery.
And also, I mean, the wordplay, I mean, from a student, I mean, learning and languages. So the way you played with English, that was very smart, I think, like understanding. So also the way you combined, word plays and irony, but also I would say gender issues. So being a good girl and using misunderstandings and language and your bad pronunciation to be, a bad girl. So a misunderstanding. So that was very, very, very nice. Very, I would say smart. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, the reference to Father Tommaso, I really liked. All right, next up is Federica, also known as Faith FURCHI. Faith.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. I hope you can hear me. Okay. This is my text. How I stopped searching for long-lasting friendships. I always had this idea that friends should be forever. Aging actually proved me wrong. I used to start every year at school thinking, okay, this time play it cool, Fede, you don't have to cry, you must be friendly and people will like you. Then you will find a friend and perhaps you will do fun things together and stay friends all your life. Even now, when I was writing this sentence, I felt how unrealistic it sounds. I approached university, however, thinking the exact same thing. And I, of course, met some good people and enjoy spending time with them. But at a certain point, I noticed everybody was treating each other as if they had known each other for ages. But I just couldn't. I immediately thought I was ruining everything again. Then I decided to act, as I always do after a good cry. And I decided to join a volunteer project on finding socialization again after the pandemic. When I first went there, I was angry at myself because even in this case, I had not found awesome friendships as I wished. I was looking around, everybody hugging each other like they found the right people, but I just couldn't. Because the thought they were not going to be my friends forever was just devastating. In the meantime, I had started a 3-week session with the university counselor to help me from a psychological point of view. There, I realized I have this fear of texting to people to ask them out, even just to go and eat ice cream together, because it could be annoying to them, so I would not write to them at all, avoiding them the issue to reply to me, no. That no was the big monster I was afraid of, and perhaps I still am. Not even talking about my huge ego and how sometimes I wish people could reach out to me, as I am always the one that has to make the effort to reach out to people, cringing at how hopeless and desperate I might sound to them. I was reflecting on the situation so much that at a certain point I felt like I needed a break. And of course, I realized how overthinking doesn't help at all in these situations. I sincerely haven't figured out how to avoid always feeling like an outcast. But I think I came to acknowledge that, 1, perhaps we should recognize that it's impossible that people will stay in our life forever. 2, not everybody has to be your friend. And by this, I mean that we might start referring to people like the friend at the volunteer project, the friend at university, the friend at the theater, and so on. Basically, I should socialize without thinking if those people will be in my life or not, and refer to them as people I enjoy being around in certain contexts. The social pressure we often feel on our shoulders to rush, chase opportunities, it is just too much. And why would I focus on this while I can just live my life? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Faith. Thank you for sharing this first very personal text. I can identify with what you said, not just a younger Licha, but also a today Licha. So thank you for having had the courage to write it and to perform it. And it was a wonderful performance. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's true. Very personal, very intimate. And I think it was also very close to the the theme of the workshop as well. So the idea of, well, socialization and socializing after the pandemic. So also growing, right? And growing up and moving forward, as we were saying before, towards also a new way of socializing, of interacting with people, a new awareness, I would say. So the idea that, yeah, friends are not there forever, or you don't start a friendship because you want them to be there forever, but just because you want them to be there here and now. So that was very nice. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Our next emerging writer who will share her story is Rita IAZZOLINO. Rita, the microphone is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. This is my text. Platonic cases. In which case do two identical people meet and collide and see themselves as mirrors, reflecting one in the other's eyes, one in the other's words? In which case do two identical roads come together and intertwine and continue merging to who knows where? In which case does understanding seem unreal? Is empathy on the agenda? Is arguing as if arguments were endless? In which case do tears authentically flow, touching cheeks, through which smiles arise as spring strawberries coming alive after snowfalls? And if one word seems insensitive, it's because of its curiosity. And if a touch seems too intrusive, it's because there's a need to feel closer. In which case does freedom not exist, and what I share with the outside world doesn't get to the world itself unless it's under your protection, which take the blows and pays the price? In which case, according to what plans have we found each other face to face, all of a sudden, afraid, then surprised? And who knows what happened in our previous lives, if we've ever met before and just caught up now and here, and if we've been strengthening the bond of centuries and can only now enjoy that bond. Thank you.
Beautiful, Rita. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. It's very strong, very powerful, very thought-provoking. So I'm glad you came to the microphone, and congratulate yourself. Thank you.
And also very, poetic, I would say. I mean, the word choice, the words that you used, and the images that you created. I don't know, like, strawberries, for example, right? And I think that I liked the transition from the previous presentation from Faith to Rita, because I mean, of course, the two were different, but they shared something, that they had something in common. So this idea of feelings, in this case, this is more, platonic, right? A platonic love, maybe, or a platonic feeling. So I like the way they also intertwine. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Our next presenter is Simone LIBRANDI. So Simone, please come to the mic. And Simone, thank you, because Simone actually participated last year in the workshop and he wanted to come back. So thank you very much for being here. Simone?
Is there, but I mean, I can see him in the participants list.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And we can see you as well.
The title of my story is Esther Had to Do Me a Favor, So She Died. If you read the story out loud, please make sure your best friend is with you and make sure they're fine. My friend Esther died. She was so tired, she stuck her head in her grandmother's oven. Esther decided to go just like Sylvia Plath. Esther was also the name of Plath's main character in her only novel. Maybe when Esther asked me to get her the bell jar for her birthday, I should have said no. Well, my friend Esther died. Esther lived with her grandparents because she needed to stay away from her mother. She was a student like me. Neither of us worked, but her mother kept on asking her for money, almost demanding it. I always paid for her movie tickets because I loved her. And I knew she loved cinema as much as I did, and I wanted her to save the little money she had. Well, guess what? My friend Esther died. Struggling financially, Esther went to live with her grandparents, her hickey grandmother and her crook grandfather, who always made her feel extremely happy, yet just as awkward. Her grandmother watched her while she was showering, but Esther was unaware of this. Her grandpa mistakenly poured a bit of salt into her breakfast of milk and cereal every single morning. Despite the voyeurism and looming dementia, I remember Esther being quite serene, with a dumb smile always on her face. If you're reading the story out loud, tell your best friend they must watch 2 films. The Visit, directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and X, directed by Ty West. My friend Esther died. Esther thought queerness was intrinsically present in everybody. She used to dash towards people, asking them questions about personal matters such as gender identity or sexuality. But like, are you 100% sure you're cisgender? She once asked a random boy on campus. The boy grumbled cheerfully and walked away. My friend Esther, guess what? Yeah, she died. Esther and I tried dating. We went to the cinema a few times. She was very fond of lesbian films, and she loved eating popcorn with her mouth wide open. She used to zone out while staring at me and end up saying things like, I think we as a society give too much importance to monogamy, such a horribly overrated concept. Or, I think I have so much love for you, you wouldn't be able to bear it. We used to talk about the way capitalism and patriarchy have poisoned the world, and she was so moved by the discourse that she often bursted into tears, feeling totally helpless against all of it. I responded, we should reject modernity and start over. We should abandon things like money or time and begin again from love, for it's the only thing we have that would make us live perfectly. She would giggle and hug me. My friend Esther, again, she died. And if you're reading this story out loud, you should list the following films and books. Portrait of a Lady on Fire, directed by Celine Sciamma, But I'm a Cheerleader, directed by Jamie Babbitt, The Price of Salt, written by Patricia Highsmith, and All About Love, New Visions, written by Bell Hooks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Simone. Thank you. That was really beautiful. That was super. Thank you for sharing. Now, we must say that this is an excerpt of a much longer piece. So I look forward to seeing the long piece performed, perhaps at another venue where you'll have more time. But thank you very much for sharing the excerpt. It's really great.
Yeah, it was really great. I mean, I think that you have a gift. You do. I don't know, you know how to convey life somehow. I mean, the minutiae of life, so the small details and the excruciating moments. And yeah, I mean, at first that was very moving, right? But then especially the way you performed, I think that everybody smiled as well. So that's good, right? I mean, also for you, that there were so many intertextual references that were also part of your story. And going back to the other reference to Mrs. Dalloway, I mean, you know, life and death in the same person and in the same situation. So I think that, yeah, your story was that. So life and death, and that was very powerful. Thank you, Simone. I was impressed.
Thank you, Simone. Thank you, Professor Casagranda. And now we will hear from Mariele Lo Bianco. Mariele.
Hi, everybody. Good morning and good evening. And so the name of my text is Bitter Sweet Summer Walk, and it is a text with two sides. Bitter. I'm on a seafront sidewalk. It's way too hot. I'm already sweating. I see heat waves going up from the asphalt, burning everything behind them. Granddad once told me that it's an optical illusion, a reverb or something like that, but I find it the most annoying thing about summer weather. I cross the street and try walking in the shade for a bit and remember why I never go walking in the morning. I watch around me and everything seems neglected. I get closer to the edges of the sidewalk and I am so disappointed for how unkempt they look. They're overgrown and grass is higher than the wall. Little flowers here and there try to insinuate themselves through it to find a way up, but they remain suffocating in the grass, isolated. I'm halfway to the marina. I try to pick up the pace to get there as soon as I can. I look around and I'm disappointed. Everything looks exactly the same as always. From the slow humid air to the irregular asphalt of the windy streets to the low-rise buildings and their faded walls, my own town lives a temporality of its own. At times it feels like a stillness, a stasis, an inescapable suspension. Nothing moves nor changes nor evolves. Other times it's more like a slowness, an inexplicable yet so clear perception that everything that resides within its borders doesn't follow the rhythm of the outside. Other times again, it's so static, it seems to be moving in reverse. The hometown is stubborn and reluctant and it refuses any change. I finally get to the marina. I take a look at the tower, the only thing that brings the signs of time. Half of it has collapsed through the centuries. Its interior is exposed as a heartbroken skull that reveals the deepest layer of the death of the creature it belonged to. Yet, in a strange way, the tower is also frozen in time, as its deterioration had suddenly stopped. From its walls and its motionlessness emerges an aura of immobility. I decide it's time to go back home, and on the way back, the usual sensation starts growing in me. It's a mix of disappointment and discouragement with an awful note of frustration. But I'm not surprised. It's always the same thing, the same set of feelings and negativity that I get whenever I walk in town and notice no single thing ever changes or gets better. What is abandoned stays abandoned. What is broken is never repaired. What is neglected struggles to be improved. The view is always the same. The town is always the same. I try to see the best out of it, but I fail, and it's frustrating. Working in town is always bitter. I'm finally back on the seafront sidewalk. Feeling the hot air makes me feel alive again. Heat waves are dancing on the asphalt as on my skin. I remember when Granddad explained to me this phenomenon when I was in the Ask a Million Questions kid phase. I was astonished. It was the first optical illusion I ever saw. Now I feel as astonished as I was back then. And that optical illusion looks more real than half the things I've been seeing over the past few months, sitting at my desk, living the same day over and over again, trying to make time pass and feeling empty. Everything is in its place. I lean on the edges of the sidewalk. When I see small flowers popping up here and there, they're purple and their color stands among the green. They're small, apparently frail, yet so strong they manage to grow at any spot. I'm halfway to the marina and I slow down because I want to enjoy every little step. I look around and I'm relieved. Everything looks exactly as it used to be. Every corner of the street is as familiar as I remember or as I try not to forget during the last few months. The town generates its own rhythm. It refuses to accept a pace determined by the outside. The slow human hair carries around quietness and tranquility that spread and stratify on the soil, on the houses, on every object that resides within its borders. With no need to rush, the town settles to its serenity and stability. For the first time, the fear of the time that I've lost abandons me. I finally get to the marina. The tower draws my attention with its soft golden color. On its throne made of cliffs, the core of the town shines in all its destruction. Half of it is collapsed, but this doesn't make it look frail at all. It is everlasting, resilient, a symbol of stability and strength for the community around it. From every corner, its interior is exposed. It reveals its heart to every passerby. It declares the victory against its own vulnerability. I decide to stay a little longer, and a sensation starts growing in me. It's like I want to look at it as intensively as I can to make sure I don't forget the image. All the colors, the blue of the sky, the gold of the tower, the red of the boats laying on the sand, blend together in a living painting I'm now part of. But the image is already vivid in my memory. And while everything else was and still is constantly changing, the picture has always been the same. I watched it 100,000 times, but only now I realize how much I needed and still need this. Walking in town has never been so sweet. So thank you. This was my text.
Thank you so much, Mariele, for your very beautiful text and two perspectives, like two photographs taken at different times of the same setting. And your descriptions are beautiful. And we move with you as you move within the text. So also very thought-provoking. So thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, also the way you, not really played, but you use the concepts of time and space. So I really like the idea of collapsing through the centuries. So the idea of, you know, repetition and motionlessness, and so something that is always the same. And I think that you convey that through the repetition of words, of keywords that were like repeated throughout the text. And the idea was, well, there's a lot of sea and seaside in your story. And so to me, it sounded like, you know, the circularity and the repetition was like wave after wave after wave, and the wave becoming like higher or possibly, I don't know, bigger. So that was very well done. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Next, I'd like to welcome Giada Opedisano to the microphone. Giada.
Here I am. Hello to everyone. The title of my story is A Bad Prophecy. Who knows if you will enjoy your life or you will suffer? This question, pronounced by my mother, reverberates in my mind still today. When I was only 7 years old, I fell off the balcony. It was a muggy day in August 1939. My mother, my sister, and I decided to go to the beach with our aunts and neighbors. I always used to wear the scapular necklace, the symbol of Marian's devotion, that in Calabria is also called the dress of Our Lady. In that exhausting heat, my only thought was to find relief through a dip in the water. Obviously, we didn't have swimsuits. Moreover, women couldn't show their bodies. For this reason, our bathing suit consisted in a cassock that we usually wore under our dresses. Once in the water, I realized I forgot to remove the necklace. My only thought was to go back home to take care of it. I took a chair to get the clothesline. I got on and I stretched on the lines. My foot collapsed and I crashed on the ground. I am not lucky, and I would have understood it from that day. My name is Angie, the fourth of 5 children. I saw misery and starvation with my eyes. When I was only 6, I worked in my father's small grocery shop, situated on the ground floor of our humble house. It was a usual thing for me to see workers buying 1 sardine, completely surrounded by salt, as a meal for the entire day. The excessive salt ingested made men forget hunger. It rendered them only thirsty. In so doing, with a belly full of water, they deceived themselves to be satiated. Once back home, after a hard day of work, the lucky ones filled their bellies with 3 or 4 dry figs. The fig method was also used with little babies. One night, I was awakened by the cry of one baby. He had an empty stomach. His grandma didn't have anything to nourish him. In our houses, we had small dialogue windows. Through it, that night, I gave her 1 fig that served as a pacifier that calmed down the baby, who finally fell asleep. We were quite a lucky family, but my life has always been a life of sacrifices. I got married at 18, but my husband migrated first to France and then to Canada. We had 3 children, and I had to learn how to run our family, our house, and our lands all alone. I received these letters each week. He used to describe his work to me. After 21 years, finally, my husband came back home permanently. It was just when we felt it was time of stability for our family that the decline began. My 3 children contracted cancer, and only 1 of them survived. As for me, the situation didn't get better. I had 5 surgical operations, 2 of them of cancer. I entered in a tunnel made of pain and questions. I found myself locked in the conventions imposed by our Calabrian society. There wasn't a day in my life when I haven't asked myself, why them and not me? I've never found the answer. Life is strange. The feeling of power and control I had throughout my life disappeared when I lost my daughters. I felt powerless and guilty somehow. Now I am 90 and I can answer to my mom. Dear mom, you should know that I have enjoyed little in my life. I suffered most, but despite everything, I'm still here. Still, I haven't let life win. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Giada. Thank you very much for sharing such a personal and such an emotional text, for sharing it in public. You know, it's part of your family history. It's an ode also to those people who left your area and emigrated. I know that a lot of people of my parents' age can identify and appreciate what you've shared here today. It's sad in many ways, but it's also very strong. So thank you very much.
And I believe that it's also very real. I mean, it was, maybe it's the wrong word, but it was very, how can I say? Like a realist picture, right? But that added to the truth of it, to the truth also of the, well, a universal experience that is made of migrating, that is made of suffering, that is made of tragedies like the ones that you described. And so that it's true, it was very powerful, the way you conveyed this.
Thank you. I wanted to give voice to my nonna.
Yeah, and I mean, we could actually hear that. I mean, so that was Nice, thanks. Also,
Thank
the idea
you.
of what life is, the meaning of life. And yeah, it's like a sort of window to a social and cultural world that is part of the past, but still survives today, I guess. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you
again.
Thank you, Giada. Okay, and now I'm very happy to invite Mariastella Sabatino to the microphone. Mariastella.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So the title of my text is The Comfort Zone. If 1 year ago you had asked Samantha what comfort was, she would probably have explained that to you by recalling the moments she spent at home, lying in bed, with no sounds but carsome time passing by. It was probably the smell of coffee in the morning, or the idea of sleeping in on Sundays. She hated feeling alone, and that is why comfort zone also meant surrounding herself with people at all times, whether they were family or friends. And if you had asked her what living all of that meant, she would explain that to you, that it meant stress and being anxious and paranoid, but she would probably also tell you of the time she had tried to live that comfort. She knew she had left the comfort zone before. Although many people would consider the occasions to be basic, those times were of massive importance to her. She had vowed to herself to change that, and even though her friends and her family had always tried to push her, she knew the change had to come from within her. Samantha was sure that all of the healthy stress that would come from it would have benefited her eventually. She was really determined and just started trying everything at once, from doing yoga to listening to podcasts that tried to explain her personality based on her zodiac sign. She stopped sleeping in on Sundays and tried iced beverages instead of coffee, even wearing things she would normally never wear. Samantha was on a quest to find herself, or at least the better version of herself, and she had the impression at first that she was on the right path. She almost gave up once. She was very unmotivated. Was stepping out of her comfort zone worth all of these efforts? Was she doing the right thing for herself? At the same time, she knew she had come a long way and that it was way too late to go back. Most importantly, she kept reminding herself that she was not doing only this for herself, but also for the people around her who generally wanted to spend time with her and that couldn't do it very often as she never wanted to go out. She was also very scared because she had started feeling all kinds of things during this process. She was excited for the journey she was beginning, about the new chapter of her life she would be spending time on, but she was very nervous because she didn't know if she could do it. So she took every chance she could get and started doing more, while also looking out for herself. She wanted to change, but she didn't want to push herself too much. The pros had still to outnumber the cons. Then came the acceptance and really started working on herself, deciding to go out every time her friends invited her. And before she even noticed, Samantha started laughing more, even if she was spending most of her time away from home. She even thought of her traveling alone in a new city, and that was one of the most impulsive things she had yet to think in her whole life. She started enjoying life, not stopping to worry about truly unimportant things. She realized that she did not have to be paranoid or anxious about things no amount of stress could ever change. Maybe she had just lied to herself her whole life, and the comfort zone was not really helping her, but stopping her, holding her back. Most importantly, she had learned to do things on her own, to be able to spend time by herself without feeling alone. Perhaps if you now ask Samantha what it meant living in her comfort zone, she would tell you it meant living life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariastella. Thank you. Beautiful text, beautifully delivered. We did spend a lot of time in the workshop talking about our comfort zones and going beyond our comfort zones. And thank you so much for sharing this text. I know that just coming to read it in public, you've done that, gone beyond your comfort zone. And it's also very timely text. A lot of us can identify with it. So thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, and I think that stepping out of your comfort zone, our comfort zone, is actually about, well, growing up as the character in your story is actually doing, but also the idea, again, the theme of the workshop. So moving forward, moving towards something else. So leaving and experiencing transitional times. That is about also thinking beyond your comfort zone. So that was very well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next, Alessia Schipano.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Alessia.
The title of my reading is Not Choosing is Already a Choice. Take the risk or lose the chance, claimed Jules out loud. She was laying on the floor of her room while staring at the ceiling. Sometimes, when she felt overwhelmed by her work, by her life, she needed to repeat to herself positive phrases like mantra, trying to drive away negative thoughts, even if it was hard. She had to make an important choice. Her boss offered her the possibility to move in London, working there for at least 3 years. Only after that period could she decide whether to come back home or stay there. But the thing was, making a choice of heart, starting a new life in a new city she loved desperately, or listening to her mind and staying where she was in her comfort zone, it was difficult because no one could tell her which one was the right choice. In that moment, she was alone with herself. The more time passed, the more something inside of her was holding her back. She realized that throughout her life, she had only followed with her head. But was her satisfied? Actually, no. Indeed, she had never dared, only because she was scared to make mistakes. But many times she thought it would have been beautiful to have the chance to turn off her brain. She felt exhausted. It was impossible to sleep because when the night fell, she felt her head like a boulder. Jules, are you still there? You haven't eaten anything. At this rate, you'll get ill, asserted her grandmother entering the room. Her voice sounded really worried. She would have given everything to help her loved grandchild because Jules' pain was her pain. I'm already ill, Grandma, exclaimed her without taking her eyes off the ceiling. My dear, you have to stand up and react. You are young and beautiful. Life is made of choices. That's the only way to grow. You can't torture yourself like that. Think about what you really want. But I really don't know, shuddered Jules, interrupting her. Of course you know. It is inside you. You only have to be brave enough to accept it, taking your responsibilities. Remember, not choosing is already a choice. But every time you opt for not deciding, you are condemning yourself to an unhappy life. Time passes and you won't have the same possibility twice. So you will regret what you could have had if you hadn't been coward. Be the master of your destiny. Of course, you can know if it'll take you on the right track, but you'll never know if you don't dare. Dare, my dear, fly high. At your age, you can be whoever you want. Don't let fear control you. You have power. The war is yours. Suddenly, Jules felt better. Her grandmother was right. She couldn't let her life slip through her fingers. She stood up, hugged her grandma, and whispered her, I'm so grateful to have you in my life. Then she grabbed the phone and called her boss. Everything was crystal clear now. She had always known what she wanted. She only needed the courage to bring it out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alessia, for having the courage to write it and to share it here today. It was very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I also liked, the connections with the other stories. I mean, well, stepping out of your comfort zone, and also this special relationship with the character's grandmother, right? So this is something that we found also in other stories, the importance of family and family ties. And I also appreciated the fact that you used a lot of dialogue. Sometimes the story is just, you know, one voice, whereas here we have dialogue. That was also nice. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is Daniela TRIFILIO. Daniela, welcome.
Hello, everyone. The title of my text is Time Had Stopped. Suddenly, the world seemed to have stopped, as if someone had decided to press the pause button. It felt like a bad dream. I told myself that if someone had told me a few months earlier that everything would soon change, probably, indeed, certainly, I would not have believed that. An invisible virus, of which little or nothing was known, uninterrupted news, total panic, people locked at home. Every change teaches us something, and this incredible, terrifying, unexpected experience led each of us to reflect on our own lives. But at the same time, we focused on our smallness, fragility, within a reality characterized by 1,000 shades and rapid changes. Everyone was deeply afraid of everything that came from the outside, from contact with friends or even with family. And up until that moment, the outside had never appeared as such a dangerous, threatening place. What is happening? How is it possible? When will all this end? These questions, to which at that moment I was unable to find any answers, echoed in my mind. My certainties were no longer such, and day after day they had to be rebuilt, like so many pieces of a puzzle. The word dynamic, as I had, or rather as we had, always known it, had stopped. Time had stopped, and that normality about which I had complained so many times, finding defects and problems even where there were not, was my greatest desire at that moment. I would give anything, I repeated to myself, as long as everything goes back to the way it was before. I missed everything about my daily life, and especially the little things, the more banal ones, my friends, coffees, walks by the sea, university, and colleagues. As long as I felt so distant from people I was used to see every day, I could only see them by video call, and it sounded so strange. So a distance not of many kilometers, but a very short distance, which however was extremely hard. There were limits everywhere, no events, no travels, no gatherings at all. I missed my usual days and organizing my weekly planner with all those dates, times, commitments, written and underlined with different colors. But above all, I felt the urgent need to resume so many pending projects and also the need to create many more new ones. Time cannot be wasted, I thought. So if I want to do something today, there is no reason why I should wait until tomorrow. My safe place has always been my bedroom. It is a real refuge where I used to stop to think and I spent time alone. Yet in those circumstances, my room appeared to me as a suffocating environment, almost like a cage. It became the place where I spent the whole days. So I kept looking around, dwelling on details that I never noticed before, but they always had been there. I rediscovered my home, my room, and at the same time, I rediscovered myself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniela, for writing this text, beautifully delivered. You really captured what we can all relate to, what we've all lived. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And not only the feelings that we had, I mean, yeah, feelings that we can all relate to, as Licha was saying, but also, you know, our relation with the inside and the outside, what's outside and what's inside. So how, again, and this is something that we have already seen in other stories tonight. So time and space, how they relate, they intertwine, and our perception of that, especially during those weeks when we were all locked, in our houses. So thanks for bringing that up. That was nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now, last but not least at all, Elena ZANFINI. Elena, please come to the microphone.
Yes, hi, I'm really glad to be here. The title of my text is Fighting the Monster. When I was only a little girl, I met a very ugly woman for the first time. Anxiety. I remember that moment perfectly, but sincerely, I would prefer to not remember it. I would say it probably was the worst day of my life. Since that day, everything in my life has changed. Everything took a new color. I started seeing everything from a new perspective. Everything was scary. The news was the scariest thing in the world. Everything was black and wasn't colored anymore. Now, with time, I am starting to see things gray. Anxiety has had a very negative influence on me. I didn't believe in love anymore. I believed that every person in the world was bad. Some years ago, I would have never gone anywhere. And now, trying to send away this monster, I have gone to so many places. I am so proud of myself, thinking of what I have reached. What I'm trying to say is that one step at a time, things are starting to have color and positive emotions. Of course, this ugly woman has changed me, but in some ways, she has done it positively. With her, I've learned to fight for what I want. I have learned to keep in mind the important things. Thanks to her, I have focused on my studies. I have achieved some very important goals. I had great opportunities. But now that I'm thinking about it, I have to thank myself for all these things. It was me. This little girl has made herself strong. You know, during your life, everything could happen, and you never know how you, your mind, and your body could react. You have to take life as it comes. You have to be strong. Find a way to get up and try to kill this ugly woman. Okay, maybe saying it this way, it can sound a little creepy, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You only have one life, one shot. You need to enjoy your time here with the people who love you and that you love. Keep in mind that this ugly woman can break all the doors and can enter your head. But most importantly, you have to keep in mind that you have control. You can kick her out of your mind if you want. It's really difficult, I know. Sometimes you will want to give up. Sometimes staying in bed will seem the solution. But if you try hard and you really want to, you will win. You will sleep well finally. You will enjoy every moment. Your heart will beat normally. You will smile, a true smile. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elena. And it's and you know, we did it alphabetically, but it's really the perfect text to end the readings with. We did talk a lot about confronting your fears and healing through writing, choosing to write about something that would help you to heal, and you did that. And yes, you need to congratulate yourself for having chosen such a topic, for making yourself vulnerable by writing about the topic, but also becoming stronger because you did that. You came, you wrote, and now you shared. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also the idea of writing as a form of, empowering. So I think that this is, something that we saw in every presentation, in every story. I would say that maybe it's also, generational. And it's really about, this time. So we were talking about transitional times, and your story was about that. I mean, from from darkness to light, from being anxious and feeling, you know, weak, to being strong. So turning that vulnerability into your strength, and yeah, from you know, being sad and worried to smiling again. So that's a positive note, and I really like that. I mean, this is also the last idea, or maybe the last image of the event tonight. I mean, of the stories that you all shared, and again, something that was specific to your text, to your story, but we could find also in the other presentations. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Professor Casagranda, for your comments after each reading. We can take a little bit of time to see if anyone has questions. I think this might be the moment where we can ask those who want to start their videos. And I also invite you specifically, the students, the participants in the workshop, to read the comments in the chat. You know, I mean, you couldn't hear the applause, but there is a lot of applause in the chat that you should go read. Yes, if anyone has any questions, you can write the question in the chat. Mirko, do you have anything to add? One thing I wanted to point out is that this is an exceptional group of students. There were only 12 people who could participate in the workshop. There are other people who tried to join the workshop, and Professor Casagranda chose the students the best ones who could participate in the workshop. So it's been wonderful to work with them. And yes,
and I mean, I guess that we could also say that, I mean, English is not their first language.
Yes, of course.
So that was also, I think, amazing, right? Because, I mean, they've been learning English for quite a while now, and they, of course, are students of English and other languages, modern languages, but yeah, English is not the first language. So that is also an achievement, I would say, and we are proud.
That's right.
So yeah.
The other thing that we should mention is that these workshops are always scheduled just before their final exams for some reason. So they are also dealing with the stress of participating in a workshop, doing the best they can, right? Coming to each workshop every week, coming prepared, doing work for the workshop, and at the same time, studying for exams that are coming up. So they're, you know, I'm well aware of that. So that's another reason to congratulate them for having come regularly for the past 7 weeks.
Yeah, and the motivation, because this year we had to, well, last year I guess it was on a Wednesday, right? This year the only, let's say, free slot in there, because they are from different programs and different years. So of course their timetable is crazy, and the only available slot was well, Friday night. So it was from 5, well, not today, because today is, I can't even remember, today is Monday, right? So yeah, that was on Friday from 5 to 8, which is like, you know, especially for students, it's like happy hour time. So going out with friends, and no, they chose to participate in the workshop to give their best in that, and we are very proud of you. So thank you for that.
I'm very proud of all of you. And it wasn't so bad for me because Montreal time is 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. But I remember when I was there in person, and we actually did our workshop from 5 to 8 p.m. And I remember some people saying, who comes to a workshop on a Friday night from 5 to 8 p.m. Don't forget that for us in Canada, 5 to 8 p.m. would really be dinner time. In Italy, dinner is after 8, but you know, that's actually our dinner time. So this has been really, truly wonderful. It's wonderful to have worked with you, and it's wonderful to have introduced you. And thank you so much for sharing your work. Now, we do have lots of positive comments in the chat, but if anyone has a question, if any of the students have questions, please feel free to let us know, and we'll try to provide an answer. And of course, everybody is shy. One thing I did notice with students in Italy is that it takes a little bit longer for them to feel comfortable to actually, like even in the workshop, I knew that the first workshop, hardly anyone would participate. And then the second and the third, and then, you know, by today, everybody's like, you know, very comfortable. But now we have it's a public setting. So yeah. All right, we do have a question here. So here's the question. It's from Lorenzo Perone. I noticed that none of the participants stuttered during the reading, not even once. Surely an amazing job has been done, not only with the writing, but with the reading too, especially since these are very personal texts. I was wondering, how was the reading part of the workshop handled? Was it just as important as the writing part? Very good question. Thank you, Lorenzo, for asking the question. Yes, so actually the workshop that we did do in person, which would have been 2 weeks ago, I was on campus, and that workshop was all about tips in reading and performing your text. Everything from, you know, if we had been in a cafe at a real mic, the stance, how to stand in front of the microphone, feeling comfortable, to what to wear so that you feel comfortable, right? I mentioned to the students, I have reading socks, I have special socks. I myself, you know, I've done lots of readings, but I'm always nervous. I'm nervous today, but I have my reading socks that give me courage. That sounds a little bit odd, but I have reading socks. So yeah, we did do that. And so it was, of course, helpful to break the ice by performing the first time, just the 13 of us in a classroom. And, you know, before we actually did it in public on Zoom. Thank you, Lorenzo. Yes, Professoressa Ganeri, can I talk? Yes, of course. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm still having technical problems here. Now, I wanted to congratulate, I don't know if you hear me. Let me see.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So, yes, do you see me too? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, there you are.
Yes. Okay, I really
coming.
enjoyed your workshop. I just wanted to say, I know many of the students, and I would like to say that I have worked with some of these students during the Italian-American course on creative writing, not personally me, but Professor Steven Sacco, I don't know if you know him. And, sorry, there is a book that is about to be published where many of the students who read, like Mariele and will contribute. So the book is, the book is coming up in the series Italian Diaspora Studies by Rubettino, and the title is Calabrian Voices. So I think that because they're very talented and they have lots of very interesting stories to say about Calabria, but not only about that, they may be thinking about the next year, academic year, we could do a project together with Licia and involving Mirko and the Clear course with the goal of publishing another book. So I'm just launching this idea.
That would be amazing.
1 year or 2 years, if it's...
that would be a wonderful initiative. And keep in mind that this is the third workshop. So there are 24 others. Yeah.
And the wonderful work you do with Accenti, you know, the journal with prizes. So we could together, I don't know, publish something and reinforce the initiative. We could...
of course.
I'll be very happy to do it. Of course, I don't work in English with the students. I mean, not on creative writing because I'm Italianista. So, but it could be also interesting to do bilingual.
Yeah, that's a very a point well taken. Something to really think about. Yeah, and I'm sure that Professor Casagranda will get on it right away. Right?
Yeah,
I know they're always very dynamic and active. Okay, we will talk about that later.
Thank
okay?
you for bringing this up.
Congratulations to all the students, and grazie.
Thank you, Professor.
For being here, Professor.
Yeah, ciao, Mariele.
We appreciate you being here, and actually, this is being recorded, so we're gonna have it on tape.
Okay, so it's real. Yes.
So this is great. You know, it's like we have a record. Yes, we have to do something. All right.
We will.
Yes.
It's really worth it.
I think so. I think so. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Yes, lots of congratulations for your beautiful stories. Thank you very much. All of you who took the time to write in the chat. Also, I got some personal messages, people apologizing for having to leave early, of course, because they were going to miss some of the readings. But as I said early on, we're grateful that they came for this. The time that they were able to come. I mean, in Montreal, this is our lunchtime, right? So people have taken time off their lunch break to come.
We had almost like 50 people, so that was great.
Yeah, I think that's really good. That's really great. Okay, any other final comments, questions? Do any of the students want to talk about their experience? Do you want to just like say that it's over, like I said, in many ways? I mean, we still have, we will go to our workshop back using the original link that we used when we first got together at 5 o'clock, your 5 o'clock, my 11 a.m. To sort of wrap it up. So if there aren't any other questions, we will meet there. Professor Casagranda, you're welcome to meet us there. And we'll have a little virtual party. Okay, is that it? Shall we wrap it up? Yes, Mariele, go ahead.
It's a public thank you to you, because not only you taught us a lot about creative writing, but also whenever we were speaking, like after the lessons or when we would meet at university, we were like always emotional and really feeling the healing one story at a time emotions that we spoke about many times. So we really wanted to thank you, because this experience was extremely rich, and we really felt that, and we did it with an enormous joy. So we are now all sad because it's finished, but we hope we'll meet you soon again and continue to do something together, and with you as well.
Thank you very much, Mariele. I feel the same way. When I met you in person, all of you, I really felt like there is, like I said earlier in the workshop, that there's a bond there. And everyone was very, some shyer, some hesitant, but in the end, I could really tell that you wanted to be there. And I'm happy. I'm actually grateful, and I feel privileged to have gotten to know you and had the possibility to work with you. And I hope you will all continue to write. As Professor Casagranda said, English is not your first language, but I think you did beautifully. And continue to write, whether in English or in Italian or another language. I think you're all very talented. So, and hopefully we'll be able to act on Professor Ganeri's suggestion and do something, some form of publication. Thank you very much. Professor Casagranda, shall we wrap it up?
Yeah. So I think, that it's time to say goodbye. So thank you everybody for being here with us, for listening to these 12 emerging writers. And thank you to the 12 of you for sharing your stories, sharing your creativity with us. That was amazing. And thank you, Licha, again for leading the workshop in such a brilliant way. I mean, this is something that always comes up every year. I mean, it's not just your skills, your expertise, and your being professional, but it's also about your humanity, the way you create a bond with the students at a deeper level. That's also, I think that's also part of the magic, right? So thank you for that as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind words. Congratulations to all. I'd like to thank the university and the department, Professor Casagranda. I'd like to thank Nick Maturo of ELAN. I mean, he's hidden, but he's there. Nick, do you want to say goodbye? Thank you. As I said earlier, Nick has been recording this. He will send it to me. We will put it up on Accenti's YouTube so that you can go and watch it. And the friends and family who weren't able to come, just send them the link. So as soon as that is up, I will send it to you. I'll also share it on social media. All right. I think we've pretty much said everything we need to say. So let's say goodbye.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something that it's not really, I mean, this is part, of course, of the extracurricular activities for our students, but it's also one of the initiatives, one of the events that are known as public engagement for the University of Calabria. So when, you know, the department and the university, well, when they reach out to, you know, the public, and
yes,
this was definitely so, because it was like, we had people from Italy, but also people from Canada. So that was really
from Ireland,
amazing.
From the States. So it's international.
Yeah, from international. So that was amazing. Thank you again.
Yes. All right. Okay, then if the audience, family, friends, if you want to show yourselves as we wave goodbye, thank you again, all of you, for being here today. And students, we will meet in our workshop. Ciao.
Grazie,
Bye. Thank you very much.
Ciao,
Thank
Licia.
you.
Ciao, Mirko. Ciao, everybody.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
Grazie.
Thanks. All right. So I'll see you
on the other side.
On the other side.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
My
for
pleasure. It was my pleasure to be here.
Have a good
Ciao.
Have a good week.
Goodbye.
You too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.